Hey guys, Randy Elgin with Keller Williams Realty, SA Realty Watch here again, talking about resources. And one of my resources, one of my friends here is Stephen Flores. And I met you at an open house. You walked in and we started having a conversation about building business. And you're an interesting person because you don't carry business cards. You just create relationships,
Right.
which is really awesome. So, resources. Tell our audience what it is that your resource is. What is it you can help them with?
So we're an insurance agency, and what we're looking to do is help people find insurance for anything from commercial auto, commercial buildings,
Okay.
homes, auto. We even offer personal umbrellas, general liability policies, things of that nature.
Okay. And how long have you been in business?
10 years.
10 years.
Mm-hmm.
What were you doing before?
I was actually doing a lot of things. Sold Peterbilts through a company
okay.
called Rush Truck Center. Sold Chevrolets. I guess always been in sales in
Okay.
one aspect or another. And so never thought I'd be in insurance, and it just so
Right.
happened that walked into this. Had a good friend that had a business,
Right.
introduced me to it, became partners, and then started my own.
So one of the things that intrigued me when I first met you was that there's a lot of insurance agents out there, but your niche has been trucking.
That's right.
And so you worked at Peterbilt, and now you're insuring Peterbilts.
Yes,
And
that's
all the
exactly
other ones, right? Okay. So you've been in the business 10 years. What got you into selling insurance?
So, in the beginning of 2009, I stopped selling Peterbilts.
Okay.
And one of my good friends was one of the finance managers. He started an insurance company and
Okay.
talked me into working with him and became partners in his insurance agency.
Yeah.
And so we always knew the ins and outs of trucking, and all the needs that truckers have and
Right.
truck companies had, from federal U.S. DOTs to TxDOT and Texas Department of Motor Vehicle needs, overweight permits, bonds, which I'm also a bondsman. And so having knowledge of all of the things that they need is
So
a natural
So if I get
flow.
thrown in jail, you can bail me out?
Probably so,
Okay.
yes.
I'll
Haven't
have
done
to
it yet, though. You might be my first client.
I hope not. That's a resource. Bail bondsman here.
But building bonds. Every time you get into, if you're the type of person that goes into contracting,
Okay.
especially with the government or the city, the county, the state, there's always bonds that are needed, and we do offer those.
Okay. All right. So you got into business. So where did you get your first client? It's like nobody else had any interaction with it. It's like,
Yeah, so being in the whole trucking industry, we've always had friends that were already in that. We grew up in trucking. My
Right.
father was a truck driver, my brother was a truck driver, uncles,
Mhm.
and lots of friends. And so as soon as I started selling insurance, it was basically
You
one
went
of
to
my
family.
friends telling one of his friends, and
Okay.
it started there. Yeah.
So a lot of people get into businesses, whatever it might be, and they automatically start thinking, okay, how am I going to get my name out there? How am I going to market it, stuff? And that, like when I got into real estate, I have engineering degrees. I'm just like, I don't know anything about this. In fact, my first coach was like, yeah, you're going to have a problem. I'm like, why? He goes, because you're an engineer.
Right.
You have no personality, which, yes and no. So, I was taught, go get business cards and go do this, ad campaigns and stuff like that. Did you go down that route, or was it just like, I know people, so I'm just going to create these?
No, we did go down the route of purchasing business cards and even thinking about buying flyers and maybe
Right.
putting some stuff into magazines. We settled just on business cards, and literally 10 years ago I still have some of those business cards left because we just don't ever give out business cards.
Right.
We don't spend a lot of our time in functions trying to brew up business.
Right.
It's a constant cycle where a client sends his father, his brother, his sister's friends, and so it's worked out well for us.
So it comes down to trust,
Yes.
knowing that you can fulfill whatever it is that they need.
And them trusting you and
Right.
having a relationship with people, yes.
Have you ever gotten a request from somebody that you're just like, stumped you? It's like, where am I going to go get that?
I think that being an agent is for an insurance need, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think if anybody ever asks for something that we didn't already do,
Yeah.
people have, because of the relationship, people have always had the trust and the patience to wait for you to come back to them.
Right.
And the good thing is that through all the resources that we have,
Mm-hmm.
you know, we've always been able to figure out what they need,
Right.
and propose it to them at a decent price, and
Right.
you know, gain their trust and their business.
A lot of people inherently don't trust lawyers and insurance people because it's like, okay, well, great, that person's driving a Mercedes or a Ferrari or whatever.
Right.
There goes my premium down the road, and I don't get to drive that. So, what is it that a consumer, like who we're talking to, needs to do? What kind of relationship do they need to build with their insurance professional to keep their premiums down, to really understand, do I have the right thing for what it is I'm trying to protect?
That's a good question. And the main thing between an insurance agent and a client is constant communication.
Okay.
Always be in touch with the client. The client obviously wants to do the same thing with their agent. Renewals come around,
Mm-hmm.
and the one thing that a client wants to know is, are you looking at me like you would expect somebody to look at you? Or is your interest to make sure that I've got the best coverage and I still pay a low premium?
Right.
And so as long as you still have that communication between the client,
Mm-hmm.
you're sharing what you've done for him, you've shared where you've gotten your quotes from, how many you have, and you're proving to the client that you're doing work for them.
Right.
And I think that satisfies them.
Because I see commercials all the time. What is the one I see most? The General, and it's like, all insurances are not the same.
No, not at all.
It's kind of like going to Walmart and going down the toilet paper aisle and, hey, I'm a guy, I don't care. It's like, it's going to do what I need it to do. But yeah, you asked your significant other, and they may have a different opinion about what type of toilet paper
you might pay the price later.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So that also is a good statement because of the fact that with insurance companies, they're all rated. And so we don't sell insurance that's less than A rated.
Okay.
And there is A rated, there's A minus, there's A plus, A plus plus, and it goes above that. And so just like anybody might have a record for driving,
Okay.
or even a credit score, insurance companies have the exact same thing. And so they're all rated, and you want to be able to talk to an insurance agent that sells at least A and up.
Okay. So let's talk about two different people. Let's talk about a 30-year-old single male who has a credit score of 680, and a single male 30 years old who has a 780 credit score, and they come to you for insurance. They have basically the identical driving record. Okay, how does the credit score with one person affect their premium versus the other person who has a higher credit score?
So the beauty of that is that there are different types of insurance companies that look for different things.
Okay.
Not all insurance companies look for credit scores.
Oh, really?
No.
Okay.
However, in the auto liability
Okay.
world, the physical damage for auto liability, they do look at driving record. So your driving record will always affect your premium, and your credit score won't always affect your premium, depending on which insurance company you go to.
Okay. So the companies that don't utilize a credit score to evaluate what you're going to pay for a premium, are they A minus, B?
No, still A. They go off of different parameters. A lot of other things are looked at. Where you are, where you're going, or what your operation area is going to be.
Yeah.
Your age, your driving record, one of the most important ones, because that's proof to who you are more than anything.
Yeah.
And so with all of those different parameters, that's how they rate you. And so if you went with somebody like, and I'll mention one of the companies that does look at credit, Progressive Insurance.
Okay.
They do ask for a social security number, they do run your credit, and they do run your motor vehicle record.
Okay.
And so those two things, along with all of the other things, including what you're insuring, how much it's worth, the type of limits that you're looking for, where you're based out of,
Yeah.
and what your area of operations is going to be, is going to dictate what your premium is going to be.
So all insurance companies may look at some things similar, but they also have some different parameters.
By all means, yes.
So they may be looking at your credit score and your driver's record, but the fact that you just saved ducks from walking across the highway and you're a good person doesn't matter to them.
No, and that's where your agent comes along and can assist you, because
Okay.
if you have an agent that wants to help you, he'll offer you a premium through one company, and then he'll offer you a quote, obviously, through another company.
Yeah.
And it might be the difference. Your credit, if it's not as good as it should be, you might want to choose to go with the other company. Not that that company is going to be any less of a company either.
Okay.
They might have the same or even a better credit rating.
Right.
And usually their rating, the insurance company's rating, is based off of how well they perform monetarily, how well they perform in claims.
Okay.
And so being that you want to deal with an insurance agent that only deals with A-rated insurance carriers, you've got it figured out. As long as you've got quotes from all those companies, then you should be fine.
Okay, so when you're talking about ratings, so that when you say the insurance agent, is it the the insurance agent have a rating?
No.
Or is it is the insurance companies that he is getting quotes from or she getting quotes from have ratings,
Yes.
like Progressive?
The insurance companies themselves are the ones that have ratings. And they could literally be in a non-rated, they could be in the B's, and then you work your way up to the A's.
Okay, so for the general person like me, I've talked to a lot of insurance agents, but are there 2, 3, 4 questions that every consumer should be asking their agent or agents when they're looking around for the best policy for them? Is there some specific questions that these people should be asking?
I think that one of the bigger things is trying to find out which companies that agent's going to go to.
Okay.
And not everybody's familiar with insurance companies.
Right.
In general. If you look at TV a lot, you probably hear Hartford or, some of the bigger names, Progressive, things like that. But it doesn't even start to tell you about all of the companies that are out there available to you.
Right.
And that's the insurance agent's job. What I would suggest is when you start to work with an insurance agent, you want to make sure that he is going to at least offer you some options.
Okay.
And I think that's one of the biggest things, because if you speak to an agent and he gives you one price, that's not a lot of work that's gone into that. And it's probably one of the very few, if any, quotes that he's able to give you. Okay. So one of the best things I always think is, how many different options are you going to give me? And then the other thing is the agent going to sit down with you and go over limit options, coverage options?
Okay.
That's probably, if not the first, the second most important thing to do.
Right.
Because if you insure a home, are you looking at liability? Are you looking at values? Are you looking at things that are going to cover you in case there's a fire?
Yeah.
Where am I going to go, and how much money do I have if that does happen? Where am I going to live for the next 2 months or 3 months until this gets situated? And so if you speak to an agent and you get very little conversation out of that quote request, especially after he's given you a quote, you're probably lacking something. You really need an agent that talks your ear off and gives you options and makes you feel like he did a lot of work for you. Right. And you can literally sit down and compare 2, 3, or 4 different quotes and say, you know what, this seems to be the one that's best for me.
So it's a conversation, it's a consultation, it's not just, do you want fries with that?
That's exactly right.
So what I've taken away from this conversation is that not all insurance companies are the same. They all may be highly rated, but again, that's a subjective term. If you're going to give me 5 quotes, are these all A+ rated companies?
Right.
No, this one's an A and this one's an A-, but the other 3 are A+. Okay, so I have an old 1988 Chevy truck. It's paid off. What kind of insurance do I need? Do I need liability? Do I need collision? I don't have a loan on it, so I want the bare minimum payment. But is that, by not getting something, am I putting myself, my family at jeopardy somehow?
Yeah, by all means, when people ask that question or even make that statement, the truck's paid off, I don't need physical damage. Or all I need is the minimal liability to meet the state's request.
Which is what?
$25,000 liability. And so the difference there is that a lot of people don't think about the fact that you might be in a place that doesn't offer roadside assistance, or if it does, towing. Or if even if you have towing and roadside assistance, what if somebody hits you and you're not really prepared to stick $2,000-3,000 into a 1988 Chevy pickup truck to fix it? And so you may be able to purchase comprehensive and collision coverage at low deductibles and be able to fix that truck for way less than you even expected. But again, if you're speaking to an agent, he doesn't give you those options.
Right.
Then you'll never know.
So what is it that, and this is really just going down into the details of how is it that I can serve you?
Right.
As your as your insurance agent, you almost kind of have to understand, well, do you have money in the bank that'll cover you for the next 6 months, you and your family, in the event that you lose your job because you had a car accident, and you're going to take that lump sum that you're using in this kind of event to fix or go buy a new vehicle, and now you don't have money to pay the mortgage.
Exactly.
So these are iterations that I guess you as the insurance professional needs to go through with somebody who's seeking out your advice.
Right. Yeah, and you know, a lot of times people forget that every year you've been with an agent and extended another year and another year.
Yep.
You might want to revisit values, limits.
Okay.
Everything has a perfect value.
Sure. At
a particular time. But if I've got a 1999 Mercedes that was worth $50,000 when it was new, or is $60,000, 10 years later it's not worth that.
Right.
So you really want to pay attention to how much value you've put on that vehicle and what type of limits you've got on those vehicles. These days, you hit somebody, you rent somebody's vehicle. Cars these days don't all cost $20,000 like they used to, or $25,000, which is the state minimum. Now you've got $50,000. A pickup truck these days costs $70,000.
I know, it's crazy.
Yes, it is. So it's smart to start looking at those options also. So $25,000 state minimums. What if we increase that to $40,000 or $50,000?
Right. And
you can go up to $100,000, $200,000, $300,000, all the way up to $1 million. And those jumps aren't as expensive as people think.
Right.
Which is what is the most surprising thing.
Interesting. Is there a certain time of the year when it's best to buy a new car? Is there a certain time of year or an age of a car that it's not going to bring any more value?
No, I think that every car is for the individual. You know, there's people that buy new cars because they can.
They like the smell.
They like the smell of a new car. There's people that wouldn't buy a new car because they don't want to have to deal with the depreciation.
Right.
And so it's almost the exact same thing with insuring those cars. You've got a new car, you've got a loan on it. You need to insure it for what it's worth. You need a payoff also. That might be another coverage that you're interested in. So if something were to happen, gap coverage is one of them.
Okay.
Other coverages that are in the auto side of it are things like PIP or medical. Something were to happen to you, personal injury protection.
Okay.
So if I were in an accident, I want to make sure that my medical bills are covered.
Okay.
Even though I have health insurance.
Sure.
You don't have deductibles with those. You might even think about the type of coverage if the doctor said you need to stay in bed and I can't have you get up for 2 months. there's coverages under a PIP coverage that will actually cover you, and people aren't even aware of that.
Right.
And so those coverages could go all the way up to maybe $25,000. Medical is another one that is similar to PIP, but different because that covers your medical expenses and might not look at something like disability,
Okay.
not being able to work, but still receiving a check.
Sure.
So
Loss of income.
loss of income, that's exactly right. And so, and even death benefits, that's part of personal injury protection.
Wow. So this just goes on forever.
It could.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So what do you think my followers need to know? Say one or two things that it's like, if you haven't thought about this, call me.
Yeah, I think my advice would be, if you've got an insurance agent and you haven't heard from them in 2 or 3 years, it'd probably be a good idea to get out there and speak to somebody, start talking to them about what options you have, look at your coverages for your home, look at your coverages for your auto.
Right.
If you feel that you need additional coverages, umbrella coverage is something that's available.
Mm-hmm.
But you really need to have a relationship with your agent. You need to trust him.
Yeah.
And be able to expect a lot of information from them so that you can make informed decisions.
Is it your role as an insurance professional similar to a doctor, patient, lawyer, client, the fiduciary there? So if you're saying, okay, what's your life like, and I'm telling you,
Right.
you have to keep all that in confidence. It's a consultation to say, how is it the best way I can serve you?
Yeah, I think that as a insurance professional, you always want to try to plan for the future.
Okay.
And it's not always the good things that come in the future.
Right.
That's where accidents happen, fires happen, things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so with the conversation that you're going to have with your agent, you're always trying to plan ahead. You want to protect yourself.
Right.
You don't want to be stuck with a surprise. Now you've got $50, $60, $100,000 out of your own pocket that you need to pull out because you weren't covered the right way.
Right.
And so with that said, yes, there's a responsibility there between your client and your insurance agent. There's a trust that needs to be made,
Mm-hmm.
and there's a lot of communication that needs to exist.
Okay, very good. So tell my followers the name of your company.
So my company is First Patriot Risk Management, LLC. My phone number is 210-296-1066. And my email address is steve.flores@1stprm.com.
Thank you very much, Steve, for coming
You're
out
welcome.
and
Thank you for having me.
visiting with me, and a great resource. He calls me all the time, begging me for information. Just kidding. So, but definitely, if you need an insurance agent, reach out to him, and he'll be able to help you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.